here's a really short video, but I thought it was really great of Hank because it's a really hard thing to ask. So they were getting a little too rowdy and excited over this bone, and I didn't want it to cause a fight or start resource guarding or anything like that. So I actually asked Hank to drop it, thinking that he could, but not knowing if he would right away. And I was going to use some of my other techniques to get him to drop it. But when I say it, it immediately falls out of his mouth, and we run and get cookies. And I was so proud of him for doing that. Okay, and here is another just really good choice video. So here he is kind of bothering Twiggy, and she doesn't even get to the point where she has the growl or snap. I think she does do kind of a lip lift, and he took the very mild correction very quickly. And instead of running around and getting incredibly jazzed and messing with other dogs or people or things, he actually he grabs a chew and he lays down with it and kind of works on that, which is so nice to see, because it's so hard for our puppies to get to the point where when they want to do something fun and they can't, then making better choices. And he's come a really long way. Okay, so we've had a little bit of trouble with the door and Hank lately. I know at your house I worked on it there too, and I've worked on it sparingly here and there. But I've kind of come to the point where at my house, every time we go out the door, or even sparingly throughout the day, I kind of work on him waiting by thresholds. So here what I'm doing is I am just going to use my body and the door to communicate with him that I want him to wait. I'm not using any verbal cues, I'm just using my body and the door. So he popped up, so I closed the door real quick. Here I'm using my body to get him back on the mat. I try to open the door, he pops up again, using my body blocking to get him back over to the mat. And here on the third time he stays and he does great. I gave him a treat and he popped right out of it. Sometimes I use treats and sometimes I just use leaving the house as a reward. But this time, since he popped out after I gave him a treat, I'm going to keep using the treats and kind of get across to him. So I gave him a treat. He does try to get out, but this time I'm ready to block. Give him another treat. And he does great. So then after that, I went ahead and released him, and he did great. Okay, so now that we're kind of shifting our focus on not jumping on strangers, I'm easing him in by using the kids that I watch after school. So he knows these kids. He's not usually out around them. They're usually on one side of the gate and he's on the other, just because they're kind of chaotic, and I don't like when they, rile puppies up. But so he's familiar with them, so it's a little less exciting than complete strangers, but still exciting enough where I can work with him on them. So I'm just doing a little bit of leash walking skills, just kind of the basics that we already know. And I'm just doing them around the kids standing still. The kids aren't moving, they're not interacting with us. He's just doing these behaviors he knows around them. So that's good practice that people are neutral in our environment. They don't do a whole lot, and we don't always need to interact with them. The few times he does look at them or gets excited to see them, I mark and treat for when he turns back and looks at me. So I really want to focus on that disengagement. I have a few clips of it in a minute. So here I go ahead and let the kids pet him to see if he tries to jump them or what he tries to do. And he's interested in them and all that, but he doesn't try to jump. So here I ask him for another sit. I dropped the treat, that was my bad. We do it again, ask for another sit, and now we try again to pet. And as long as his feet are on the ground, the kids are allowed to pet him. And this is just kind of the basic beginning starts of how we're gonna transfer this into public spaces. So we'll practice this a few more times, and then I'll go into public spaces and kind of show you the same idea. Okay, here we're doing some leash walking work up to Riley. I ask him for a sit, kind of mimicking what it would look like in the real world if someone asked to pet him. She goes and pets him, and he does great. So a few things. He is a little more tired, so he's going to do a little better. But the other thing is the way that Riley pets is very different than when Gavin pets him. And I'll go back and kind of point that out in a little bit here on a separate clip. But the people's reaction really kind of determines Hank's reaction. Okay, So here, now we're having the kids put a little bit more movement into the situation. Sometimes that can be more exciting for dogs. Sometimes it can be easier. It just depends. So I'm going to be doing some leash walking work up to them. And he does get excited here. But the second he pulls away is when I mark yes and treat. So I really want to mark and make sure he understands that disengagement is what's going to get him rewards. Let's go. Yes. Okay, here we're doing it again. And he is a little bit more distracted here, and he's not really focused on the food. So after a second of him not really wanting to take food, we kind of just call it, and we all go inside, and we try again later. Okay, so here we are inside doing the same thing. We have different kids. We're in a different location. So some things are going to be better and some things are going to be worse. And we're just kind of working through it. I don't have expectations that puppies just inherently know not to jump on people. So when I'm working through this and remembering, I'm trying to remember what is the excitement in the room? What is the excitement coming from the people? And that kind of gives me an idea of what I should be doing as a handler to set Hank up for success, right? So if people are really crazy and excited, I'm going to give us a lot more space between them. If they're calmer, I kind of have more expectation that he should be able to walk through it with my support. So here he goes, kind of sniffing Edie, but he comes back around to me. So we do a good job there. And there's another little girl on the off the camera. I'll get her in shot in a second, but there are two kids here. Yeah. Edie, right here. There you go, right there. Now one more minute and then you're good to go. Hanky. Yes. I think the overall theme with Hank is if he's working, he knows we have treats on him, he knows he's supposed to be working towards a goal, he does very well. It's when we stop working is when he has a hard time making those choices on his own. And what we're hoping to get through training is that any time that he has a difficult situation, there's people around and we know he likes to jump, there's something that he might like to chase and he shouldn't be chasing. When those situations are around us, we want to be working right now. He's really young, we want to set him up for success. So if I have people over and I know he's going to jump, I might tether him to me with a leash and practice with treats, not jumping. And if I can't do that, then I will opt on putting him up instead of working on it at that moment, because I don't want him to practice these behaviors. So if at all times when he struggles, we're working, as he gets older, that hopefully he'll not need to be so, we can start weaning it out, right? We can start rewarding him sparingly and less until it becomes a behavior that he just knows and a choice that he can make on his own without support from us. Yes. Okay, so this next video is two of the parents picking up their kids. And I usually have Hank behind a gate or up, but today I had him tethered to my body. So here Robert comes to pet him because he's used to petting him. And I asked, oh, can't pet him today, Robert. We're doing training. And Robert listened. He's very used to me having dogs out and working with them. So he's just going to go ahead and ignore him. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to have Hank on a leash tethered to me. And when he makes the right choice, I'm going to reward him. I'm not giving him any verbal directions right now. I'm just waiting and rewarding calm behavior. So once Robert passes by, I stand over here. So Hank cannot get to Samantha, even if he pulls on the other end of the leash. But since he's giving me some good eye contact, I move a little bit closer. He's still not going to quite be able to get to her. But I continue to move closer where he can, but his attention is on me, if that makes sense. So how I'm setting this up is I'm preventing him from being able to practice that bad behavior or that unwanted behavior. And I give him alternatives to do. What do I want you to do when there's people around? Maybe lay down. He's giving me these beautiful, he's opting into laying down. He's settling. And for those, he'll get treated for. And if he gets up and pulls and thrashes, he won't. But again, if I was close to them and he was on the leash, he could still jump. He could still practice that behavior. So we're just setting him up for success at this point. And he does really, really well. You know, kind of like I said, I think his theme is if we're working, he's on. And if we're not, he's doesn't know the correct choice yet. But us working through it teaches him the correct choice, and I have no doubt that Hank can get there. There's a lot of dogs that I'm like, I don't know if they can settle around people. I don't know. It's gonna be a really, really long time. But Hank does really well. He gets concepts pretty fast. So right there, Millie walked out, and you could see not only did he turn his head, but he picked up his legs. He was gonna go for Millie. He was gonna jump, and he looked back. So I made sure to mark him right when he looked back and did that disengagement that we worked on outside. So that's how we're going to kind of set it up. We're going to prevent him from practicing this behavior of jumping. We're going to reward him when he chooses to do the right thing. We're going to keep working on settling work. And I'm going to put him around as many people as I can find, whether they're people he already knows, so it's less tempting to jump, or if it's strangers, which is more tempting to jump. And I'm going to change our approach depending on the situation. But this is amazing. I mean, they were here for less than 3 minutes, and we're already laying down. We're resting. I've slowed down the treating significantly, and he's still hanging out with me. Right here, Millie is pitching a fit, which doesn't sound like anything to a dog, but for some reason, when kids pitch fits and whine and sobs and like flails, puppies especially want to like get up and investigate that kind of energy, and he is just resting. And not only that, this is my favorite part. The door is open. There's just like room to go, and he didn't even try to get up. So that was incredible work, and I'm really proud of him. So we'll keep doing this. I think this is a good practice on, kind of making people in our environment just people in our environment. We don't have to interact with them. So he did great.